bear with me here. I forgot, I ran up here to the warehouse and realized it was Tuesday, and I don't have my little tripod so that I can do a beautiful scenographic display of my directing style with bees. But anyway, so still, this is kind of one of the most relaxing times as a beekeeper. We're more or less waiting for the honey flow to end, which, I mean, once again, in our area, the blackberries are the main flow for this time of the year. I'm scheduled to start extracting next week, the 25th, 26th, somewhere along there, because I really want to start knocking down any mite population that's built up throughout the summer. I want to knock that down, nip it in the bud by the 1st of August. So that's my timeline, and then anything that the bees bring in from the time I pull the honey till winter, hey, good for them, saves me on feeding costs, and also nutrition wise, it doesn't hurt for them to have their own nectar supplies versus the mixture of sucrose and fructose that I feed them. So anyways, so here's our nuke. A nice little population of bees on the ventilation. Good flying force. Humid today, so some bees hanging out here in the front. We added this second honey super last week just to give them excess room. I didn't really think they would need it. They're up here doing some housekeeping, but nothing major. They're not actually working it. If we go down into the second one, you can see that they are actively working that one. Probably about 3 or 4 frames of honey that they're almost starting to cap off, and that is fine. So once again, the story with this hive, and I keep reiterating this too, is next year I think what we're going to do is follow like 3 hives through an entire season so that we have a better comparison, because what happened is we installed this as a nuke. By the way, something I like to do when you take the lid off, a lot of times any bees that were on the center of the lid do like to go to the edges and they can get crushed, and so I just knock them off there in front of the hive, put the lid back on. Crushing bees doesn't only release alarm pheromones, but there's also the practical part that when you crush bees, how do bees clean up messes? They clean it up with their mouth, with their mandibles, and so any bees that had viral issues, whereas if the bee was left alive, most likely it's going to fly out of the hive before it dies and minimize the chance for it to spread its infection, versus if that bee is crushed and you have 15 or 20 bees come in to use their mouth to clean up that disease. Anyways, there's been some studies on bees being crushed, it helping the spread of diseases in hives. So another reason why you want to avoid crushing bees unnecessarily. So anyways, the story on this nuke, and I'd have to go back to the videos and remember, but I remember the first queen was rejected or went missing, something like that. And so I believe, replaced it with another caged queen. Long story short is that the colony ended up probably losing 2 weeks, a good 2 weeks of brood production. And especially in the spring, that's a really crucial time, which, will show up, especially around this time of the year. So that's why it's a bit further behind, or actually a lot further behind than the other colonies, which would have been normally progressing along. Some of the other nukes that were started around the same time as this one, have 4 or 5 deeps on them, 2 of which almost completely full of honey. So kind of gives you an idea. Like I said, next year we'll try to do a 3 hive comparison for those of you following along, and just kind of having a more accurate reference point of what your bees should be looking like. With that said, you know, beekeeping, no matter how much experience or how well-intentioned your plan, things go wrong. And so this is a really good reference guide of, you know, when things go wrong with your hive, how do you right them and move forward? My strategy with this hive is most likely going to be to go ahead and treat them for mites. I'll take that fourth honey super off because I really don't think they're going to have a chance to start working in it. Like I said, blackberry bloom is starting to finish up. There's still the odd wildflowers and foraging, but more or less in this area by August, everything's going to start drying up. So what I'm probably going to do is end up taking off that fourth box that's there, and leaving the third one with the honey, going ahead, treating them for mites. And then as the season progresses, they're going to pull the honey from that third super into those two deeps in preparation for the winter. And I'm just going to let them have that honey that they've collected, and then we'll top them off with what they need with either sucrose or fructose syrup. So anyways, that's kind of the thing here. Still have some girls washboarding for me. It's the cutest thing. Nukes are really looking good, and have one last batch of queen cells. I'm going to be requeening one of my yards that has queens from last year, which is going to bring all of my stock up to 2019 queens, which is exactly what I'm wanting for even the breeders that I was using from last year. I've gone ahead and requeened because they're starting to show signs of getting tired. But anyways, yeah, so that's the update from here. This is the 16th of July, 2019.